and sit down. Shut up and sit down.
And there we go. Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Build, Paint, Play. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jake, and we have a special guest.
Eric! Hooray! Erik
Hello.
Swinson's here.
Hi.
Awesome. Sorry about that. I was messing around with buttons, and I pressed a button, and something disappeared, and I thought, oh my goodness, what's gone wrong?
So buttons do.
But I hope that we're all here. Scott is in the chat already. A couple of others jumping in. Scott, how does everybody sound? How do I sound? How does Jake sound? How does Eric sound? Jake?
Hopefully good. Hopefully better. We've had some weeks where it sounds like I'm a million miles away, and literally Dave and I don't mess with any of the settings, and then the next week it's fine.
Yeah. Excellent. Dave Hummel is here. Josh Potter is here. Sounds great. Chris Cummings here. Evening, gentlemen. And Scott says thumbs up for sound. Awesome
Outstanding.
stuff. Hooray! Oh, good for Dave.
I hope I sound good. I don't know. I haven't talked very much, so hi. I hope I sound good.
Awesome.
Everybody watching the show, it's just Eric like,
well,
oh, he's up. Perfect.
Yes, Eric sounds like he's either silent or like his voice is being eaten by a giant beard monster.
There you go. Nice.
Excellent.
5x5. You're good.
5x5. Cool. Sounds good. As far as guests sounding like that, Jake, I would direct your attention back to episode 6 of season 1. We need to get Dan Osborne back on the show.
Yeah, we can. That's fine.
It was before we worked out the sound, but now that we've got it, we're all happy. Anyway, welcome, Eric. The first thing we usually do on Build, Paint, Play is we have a chat about things we've been doing hobby-wise over the last week. Jake, did you want to go first?
Sure. This will be quick. I didn't do a lot of anything hobby-wise. Did some. Actually, that's not true. I did a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I went through a bunch of books, building a character that I'm playing in a game with a bunch of my buddies, and we're all doing like custom characters, and my friends like custom built game, and so I did a ton of research in that, and then I also ended up going through when we moved. We've only been in this house for basically like 5 months or 6 months, and most of that was winter, so I just cracked open our storage unit and was moving stuff out, and I went through a whole tote of old like stuff that I kind of forgot I had type of stuff. I actually found probably the only one I still own. I found a plastic squat.
Right. Wow.
I like one of the old like ones from the big box. I found a Rogue Trader RTB 01 Marine 1.
Yep.
I found a bunch of like stacks upon stacks upon stacks of like sprues with bits.
Yep.
So I'm going to take them all to work, and I think we're going to do like a bits build day. Like I'm going to just pick a Sunday or a Saturday and have everybody come in and bring in bits and dump them on the table, and everybody like make like Frankenmonster things. We used to do that back in the day.
Fantastic.
So it was just fun seeing some of my old stuff. And Dave, I thought you'd appreciate this.
Oh. What have you got? What have you got? What is it? Oh, Warhammer Armies Dark Elves from way back in the day.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, I'm like, where was this the other day? I mean, I had my Angels of Death Codex, so I wasn't really that upset. But
No.
this is from, what year is this?
1995.
1996.
96.
Yeah,
Oh, so close.
pretty good though. I also found
They got it earlier in Australia. It's all right.
We did.
Yeah, you probably did. I found a copy of the. Remember the Warhammer? It's like a yellow book.
Yep.
It's the Warhammer Companion,
Okay.
and it has like all tons of battles in it. So I found a copy of that literally looks like it's brand new.
Right.
And I was like, I'm never going to use this. So I put it on my eBay and I sold it immediately. Some guy was like, oh my God, like, is it really in good shape? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, cool, I'll take it. So it's kind of fun, like looking through a bunch of my old stuff. But other than that, it's been pretty tame.
Okay. Cool. The reason I said 1995 with that army book, I'm guessing then that image appeared on the White Dwarf earlier.
Probably that image has definitely been used before.
Oh yeah. It must have been on the White Dwarf in 1995 when I was managing the Sydney City store, and they had when it came in, we referred to that as that issue of White Dwarf as Play Dwarf.
Yeah, I can see that.
A bit of the Playboy aspect, but we sold over 300 copies of that magazine.
Really?
Yeah. Crushed it.
That's pretty good.
Anyway. How about you, Eric? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I can show you. I've been painting this little dwarf guy.
Oh, sweet.
From Spira.
He's pretty rad.
And yeah, been painting him on stream every Wednesday, getting ready to finish him up. Other than that, I've been working on some stuff that sadly I can't show you, but I've been Black Crow Miniatures teased their next release today on their Instagram, and I've been painting the box art for that, so it should come out pretty soon.
Awesome.
And yeah, cool. That's about it. Getting ready to work on the figure for the. I have it right here. Oh. Figure for the next Chimera Kickstarter, and yeah,
awesome.
Staying busy.
Very cool. Very cool stuff. We will very obviously be talking a lot more about stuff that you have painted, and also we will be marveling at your incredible speed and prodigious output for the rest of the show. So that'll be super cool. I have been doing some more painting on my iron hands, which are up here for Horus Heresy. Where's my favorite looking guy? This guy. He's my favorite dude. He is on his way to being done.
He's good.
It's really just the silver trim to do from here. Gotta love iron hands being wonderfully black.
Are you gonna do both hands metal?
No, actually, I think most of those guys have like a bionic right arm, so it'll be that'll be metal. But
isn't that the thing with them? Don't they have to like cut off their hand as like part of the initiation into becoming a Space Marine for the Iron Hands?
I'm not sure if they have to.
I'm not super up on my lore, but I think that's one of their things.
It might be. It might be.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
check it out.
Check it out for us. Yeah, I'm assuming that those where I forget to paint it silver or iron, it's basically they have their bionic hand inside the glove, so it's still there, but you just can't see it. That's going to be my plan. So I've been working on those anyway, and I played a game of Horus Heresy on Saturday against my friend Tim. Against his Dark Angels, I used Death Guard, and I thought I had a pretty solid list, and I was fairly successfully taken apart during
what's
the game.
What's your list? What's in your list?
Primarily had 2 units of 20 tactical marines, had a unit of 15 breaches, 5 las cannon guys, a Spartan tank, a Kratos, and a Contempted Dreadnought with Gravis Melter Cannon, plus my Praetor and Cataphractii armor. And
I understood some of those words.
That's cool. Awesome.
5 Marines with las cannons?
Just 5 with las cannons, yeah.
20.
You can't take 20. 10's the max in a squad.
Well, right. Well, there's a guy he runs 2 squads of 10, and it's insane.
No, I couldn't possibly do that. But anyway, No, his Sakaran tank took apart my Spartan pretty quickly, unfortunately. Although it was a wonderful rending shots. But great game, nonetheless. I did have a lot of fun. Next time, though. Next time, I'll be better. Just jumping back to look at the chat. James has joined us. Sean's here. Dave Hummel's finally unpacking his stuff. It has arrived. I think he's just got a little bit more furniture to arrive. Josh is saying, I've heard in some countries classic plastic squats are used as money.
Yep, I'm not surprised.
It might get to that point, I think. Excellent. Sean found his 40k Chaos Codex, the classic Chaos Codex, which is cool.
Nice.
And Scott said, smut was hard to find in Australia. Yes, it was. But Scott also asks, Eric, do you play games, or is it just about the paint for you?
Well, do we want to get into this whole thing right now, or or save this conversation?
Well, sure. Let's jump into it now. We've gone through what we've done hobby-wise. Let's get into the conversation about Erik Swinson.
Cool. I mean, so I used to play a lot more games. I started with Warhammer in 5th edition.
Yep.
Originally I played Death Guard. I had a whole Forge World Death Guard army.
Right.
They were my first. Then I had a Salamander's army. Then I had a Grey Knights army. And then I stopped playing when Flyers came out because I hated 6th edition.
Right, okay.
I switched to playing War Machine and Hordes, and I played that pretty competitively, like not on a national level, but like competitively at a local store level, right? Played that a lot, have like a gigantic, almost other than newer stuff that I've painted because I painted it, for them, but not for myself. But I have basically like the entire Signar range of figures painted up.
Cool.
Yeah, I played quite a few factions, and then I played Signar, Scorn, Crix. So did that, and then now I mostly only play Kingdom Death. That's my. I prefer the cooperative games more now than like the competitive tabletop games.
Sure.
Nice.
Yep. No, that's good. I can definitely get behind the cooperative idea. For sure.
It kind of got to a point for me where it was just like causing more arguments than I enjoyed. Whereas so like most of my games just ended up being like, just do whatever you want. I don't care. It's like I don't want to spend my free time arguing over 1/8 of an inch and everything. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just roll the dice. So I find that I enjoy much more. Just like we either all win together or we all fail miserably together.
Right. But at least you've done it together. That's the important.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's cool. That's why I generally just play. I will still play, obviously. Well, I will play, I guess, competitive games, and I'm playing against somebody. One of us will win. But when you play it, yeah. I'm lucky enough I've got some good gaming groups where it's it really doesn't matter who wins, as long as we're having a good time during the game. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how it normally starts. Is everyone is like just having a good time, and then it
can devolve,
and then it starts. Yeah, it starts to get a little more serious, and everybody, starts bringing 20 las cannons. So
yeah.
Again, I'm not saying I would do that. I'm not about to paint 20.
Yeah, that's why I'm generally good with 5, right? I'm good with that. But yeah, those guys spent a bit of time running towards the back of the table, and then they rallied and moved forward a little bit. But, no, they were okay. I'm not sure if I'd take 5 again. I might have been better off taking more, giving an apothecary to my breacher squad. But anyway, very cool. Sean says he is working on some Blood Bowl stuff at the moment, so very cool. Sean's going to be hopefully painting during the stream. And oh yeah, Scott says Eric, you may enjoy an 80s horror co-op called Don't Look Back. I don't know if you've seen that.
It's got to have cool minis though. It's got to have cool minis for me to be into.
The minis are pretty cool, but it's from Black Site Studios. These guys are out of Texas, and
the minis are awesome.
They are pretty cool. The packaging is the best part about it, really. No, I don't know. I haven't played the game, but packaging is an awesome part of it. They everything comes in like 80s plastic video case, like VHS sleeves.
I enjoy a good like branding on the packaging.
Yep. So
Dave and I were talking about
there's something really satisfying, like not to get too much into technology, but there's like something really satisfying about like the way like Apple or somebody, like produces an iPhone or an Apple Watch. It's like, oh, this packaging is so nice. It's like that little extra something.
Yeah.
The other one they make that we really like, Dave and I were looking at Adepticon, is the one is it's just called Moon?
No, it's Lunar,
right? Like all of the minis come in packages that look like astronaut food.
Yep.
So they're in like these vacuum sealed bags that you can hang out. Like it's awesome. Like they definitely put in that extra you're talking about in all of their games. So all of their games has their own like unique packaging, which I'm sure from somebody who's worked on the back end like logistics side, I'm sure that's a nightmare. But at the same time, it's really cool because all of their games look very distinct and unique.
Yep. Definitely cool. Excellent. So there we go. We've had that the rundown. That's your gaming chops. Painting wise, let's talk about, I guess, at which point during that sort of gaming process did painting become a very important part of interacting with the hobby?
So painting became my main focus it was like 2017, 2018 really was like when I really started to focus on it. I went to the Lock and Load, which is Privateer Press's convention in Seattle, and they have the P3 Grandmaster, and I was like, I'll take a shot at the painting competition, and that kind of like gave me the bug to really push my painting further. Before it was just like I just painted my figures to look nice, up to my standard for my army.
Yeah.
But then like I went there and people were like, oh, don't you have like a social media? You're not on any of these painting groups or anything? I'm like, no, I just paint. Just paint my stuff and play games with it. I didn't like share anything out there or whatever. So
right.
Yeah, that's what really gave me the itch. So I did that, and then I did the P3 Grandmaster, then I competed at Crystal Brush, and then Monte and Nova and all these other ones. So, and now I do it as a job.
When was the first time that you went to? You mentioned Monte there, so it's Monte San Savino in Italy. When was the first time that you went to Monte?
That was 2019. 2019 was my first.
Okay, cool. So for folks who are listening who don't know, give us a little rundown on Monte San Savino and the position it holds in the constellation of painting competitions.
So you have Golden Demon, right? Which a lot of people that are more into the gaming side would probably consider like the premier painting competition. But it's only Games Workshop, right?
Yep.
Monte is like the premier painting competition for fantasy and sci-fi painters, even historical. Like it's a huge mix of all the best painters throughout Europe, and now we're bringing more of the USA guys over there, but and they get some like Asian representation and Australian too. But yeah, it's like the premier show for the more large scale display painting.
Okay. So for things like busts and scale models and
Yeah, bust scale models, 75 millimeter figures. Small scale also, it's not as prevalent, but yeah, it's the top of the top level goes. So
awesome stuff. Oh, sorry, just quickly distracted by the chat. Seattle area?
I see something about Scott mentioned Marvel United is a fun co-op game. I haven't played it, but I painted some of the figures for the last Kickstarter.
Right.
It's kind of funny. Like
Yep.
a couple of our regulars, like Scott and Jeff Smith and a few other guys who are phenomenal painters. They literally picked them up to paint them because they thought they'd be fun to paint. And then they all have like families. They started playing with their families, and the game's a hit. Like everybody loves it. So like
Yep.
I've heard it's really good, and the figures were super fun to paint. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's a big strength that a lot of games have nowadays. It's like there's so many like you might buy a game where I'm like, well, I really like that developer, or I really like that guy who designed that game, or it's like I really like the minis. So I think it's a cool way to hook people, and the fact that the game is also great is just awesome. Because now it's like, well, I don't really know anything about painting, but I want to play a superhero game. Cool, you should buy this game. I really want to paint some cool minis. Cool, you should buy this game. So
Yeah. So you're saying they're on a winner?
yeah, 100%. I just picked up the Marvel Zombies, which is the Zombicide game, or it's a Zombicide. It's in the Zombicide world. That's the new Marvel Zombies game, and the minis are awesome. Like I only have the base game now, but I'm waiting on everything else, including my Galactus. That's like
All right.
a toddler.
Yeah.
Like that thing is gonna be nuts.
yeah, those are all produced by Big Child, same company that made the chibi ones also.
Yep.
Yeah.
So have
No,
you
Big
been
Child
doing
doesn't-
some box art painting for them as well?
Yeah, yep. I did I did 5 of the figures for the last Marvel United.
Awesome.
I'm not sure I can remember all their names, but I did Ronin, who's like the Hawkeye in the ninja costume. I did Airwalker, Beast, and 2 others.
Okay. Cool. Awesome stuff. I did not know that. I know you also did some for the Nova Open Charitable Foundation, didn't you?
Yeah, we did a whole huge set for the Nova Open Charitable Foundation.
Did you coordinate?
Yeah, I did
you
Thor
coordinate
and Nova. Yeah, I coordinated it, and I messaged a bunch of people on WhatsApp and said, "Hey, you want to paint a chibi?" But
Awesome.
yeah, Sean and Fabrizio Russo did most of the coordinating with like getting the figures sent out, and I was just pulling strings to be like, "Hey, paint a thing."
Paint a thing. Paint a thing for us. That's cool. Excellent. Yeah, Scott says, Eric, your work on the Marvel Kickstarter got me deep then. Hell of a body of work, Eric. Play the game. Yep, definitely. But no, Scott earlier said Seattle area. I bet you've met and battled my new sensei, Matt DiPietro. You guys must battle for supremacy.
I know
in the
Matt.
Northwest.
I know Matt pretty well. Yeah.
Yep.
We've known each other since first time I went to Lock and Load. This is where we met actually.
Right.
And
Was Matt the
always see each other.
Was Matt the studio?
Matt
person
was
or-
no, he had just left.
Okay.
He had just left to go do his own thing. He was still doing work for them, like some freelance stuff, but he had gone to do his own thing, and I think they were getting ready to do the miniature monthly and everything. So
Cool. Excellent. And, Sean says, I want to get the Thundercats miniatures for Zombicide.
They're rad. We have them in the shop. Like they're on the website. Like they are super cool. Like middle school me is like the Thundercats. Like they're sick. It's $4. I think you get one of the 3 bad guys in each box,
All right.
and then you get 3 of the Thundercats in each box. So like one box has like Little Mum-Ra, Big Mum-Ra, one of the bad guys, another one, and I think Jaga's in that, and then the other one has the Monkey Man, and then it has 3 of the guys. The other one has the Lizard Guy and 3 of the guys. But
Okay.
they're really cool minis, and there's rules for them, so you can run them in any of the Zombicides. So
Okay. Nice.
that's what I was literally about to ask that because Zombicide's crazy, where it's got like Marvel, The Boys, Thundercats. Like what? There's how many different?
There was a
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff, but it's just like the rules are just really fun. So it's like again, it's you said you like co-op. So when you set it up, it's designed to be co-op. So there's little like spawn points. So if we're playing, Dave goes, you go, I go, the game goes, and the game goes is we just like flip a card out of a deck for each spawn point and see what happens. And then if a zombie shows up in the basic rules, if they can see somebody, they just move towards that person, and if they can get to somebody, they attack. If they can't, there's like noise markers that you create anytime you like smash a window or like shoot a gun. And then if they can't see anybody, they move towards the noise. If there's no noise and they can't see anybody, you roll and they like move randomly. Right. And then
I think I've either played.
Pretty neat.
Yeah. I think I've either played the original Zombicide, like when it first came out, or I played that game, what is it, Dead of Winter or something? There's another zombie board game that's kind of similar in cooperative play. And in Zombicide, if you died, you turn into a zombie and you then play against the other players.
I don't think so. I think you're just dead. Like, but most of the missions are like, if anybody in our group dies, we fail.
Okay, I think it was Dead of Winter then, because I think at that one, you like once when you die, you turn into a zombie, and then it's like then your goal to like try and kill the other players also.
I know Dead of Winter is one of those games
that's a good twist.
Like a secret role where somebody, if you're playing a big enough game, somebody is like working against the team. So
yeah, that's a good one.
There's so many good things.
Excellent.
Oh, Sean said there's the Ghostbusters also. I don't think I've seen Ghostbusters. I know they're putting out a bunch of Batman things for them now. There's like the was it metal, the Batman Heavy Metal. So they're doing a bunch of the alternate like versions.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, the Zombicide stuff is super fun. There's like right now I think there's 5 like variants. There's like classic Zombicide, which you've played. They have since updated it. Second edition is just everything's just updated. Like the rules are a little bit better. The minis are much nicer because the plastics are better. They added some new missions. Then there's like Black Plague, which is it's just Zombicide, but instead of being in a modern setting, it's a medieval setting. And then there's Green Horde, which is just the same thing on hard mode. So instead of being humans, they are orc zombies. So everything is just harder. And then there's a bunch of expansions for that. Then they put out Invader, which is basically Zombicide, but you're fighting aliens in like a base on Mars. That one has a bunch of cool mechanics. Like if you're using something that needs atmosphere, if you're inside the space station, like your guns work, but if you're outside, they don't because there's no atmosphere. Then there's what are the other two? There's 2 more. Oh, there's the Wild West one, which is just like it's like there's like Doc Holliday, and it's all like it's all gunslinger dudes. And then there's the new one, which is Marvel Zombies. The new one introduces a new way to play. We play as the Marvel Zombies, and you're trying to eat everybody. And as you eat certain named, citizens, we gain special abilities. And then you can also flip it and play as the Marvel heroes, trying to protect everybody from the Marvel Zombies. Right. It's really neat. And then, again, I'm a huge Marvel Comics fan, the minis are just great.
Excellent.
Yeah, minis are really fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent. Just before we jump in to take a look at some of the minis we've got queued up, some of your paint jobs that we've got queued up, Eric. Scott wants to throw in a few softball questions. He says, so
yeah, I read it. It's not so softball.
It's classic Scott.
It's classic Scott. That's the way that he works. But yes,
he followed up.
Is mini painting art or is it craft?
No.
Is mini painting art?
Yeah, is mini painting art? Why or why not? Does all mini painting qualify as art, or are there some criteria you would attach? And then, more importantly, to start off, what learning techniques to improve quality of appearance, transitions, etc., or to learn color and lighting without perhaps strong brush technique?
All right.
Scott.
You don't have to answer this.
All right, Scott. You
don't have to answer these all at once. We'll get into some of the.
Let's get into it. Second one. All right. Is mini painting art? Well, you have to ask yourself, what is art, right?
Yes, nice.
That's a simple question.
What is the point of art? Is it something to make you feel an emotion? So I think if a figure or paint job makes you feel some emotion, then it is art. I think when you talk about mini painting, if you're painting figures for a game or something similar where it is utilitarian in purpose, it is more of a craft than it is an art. But I think if you're creating paintings for display, or it could even be figures for your game where you're putting some kind of more emotion into it, or some purpose beyond using them, for their
as counters.
Yeah.
As their physical
then I
presence.
think it is art.
Yeah. Okay. That's
So there's my answer on that.
that's a great
And
answer.
I don't think
I
it
like
matters. I don't think it matters like what kind of techniques or how skilled or anything you like. I don't think there's any of that involved in whether it's art or not. I think it is purely the purpose of the painting that makes it art or not.
Right.
And then what was the techniques? More important to start off learning techniques to improve quality or appearance, transitions, or to learn color and lighting without perhaps strong brush technique. I think they're both equally important. And the only way to learn, you can learn concepts and theories, but it doesn't matter how much understanding you have of those theories and concepts if you can't put them into practice with good technique. So, and the only way to get good technique is through actually doing painting. As someone who like teaches and paints, on stream, you could watch my videos on and tutorials.
Yep.
It's only going to help you so much
in the notes below. So,
Yeah.
Scott is one of our top guys, but also a troll. So he is like.
So the only way to actually get better is through practice.
Yep.
Right. So you can watch all the painting tutorials in the world you want. If you never put a brush to a figure, you're never going to get better.
Yep.
I said that to a kid the other day. He came into my store and he was like, "What should I watch?" And I was like, "You should just put some paint on a brush and put it on a model. Like, you don't worry about anything.
Yeah.
Like, once you if you're like, hey, what's the best way to do a plasma highlight on a pistol?" I'd be like, "Sure, watch a couple, figure out which one you like." I was like, "But if you just want to figure out like how do I paint models, you should just paint some models."
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing will ever be as good as like actual putting in the hours.
Yep. For sure.
And then the third one is 3 desert island minis. So if you were stuck on an island, you can only have 3 minis with you. What minis would you take? And your favorite paint colors. He wants you to be specific. Again, we can probably ignore that one. I'm more interested about the 3. Like, what are your 3 personal minis that you like absolutely love? Like that you either have painted or you haven't ever gotten a chance to paint.
My 3 personal favorite minis.
Yep.
Well. First of all, I would never take the 3 minis to a desert island because one, I hate painting the same figure twice. I don't enjoy painting the same figure twice unless it's something like extremely simple, like a bust that's like just someone's face,
Yep.
right? That I can, paint very quickly and do a different interpretation on. I don't enjoy like army paint. If I had to paint 100 Space Marines, oh my god, no thanks, I'm good.
Yep.
I don't want to do that. Then you're assembly lining and you're just doing the motions over and over again. Even like painting an army for Privateer Press, like to do I did the recent release of the Orgoth army, and by the time I got through all those, I was like, I'm so sick of painting this color scheme. Like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yep.
I feel like you'd probably like something like Bretonians because everyone has to be different because it's supposed to be they're wearing their own personal heraldry, so every horse should be different.
But I'll get like crazy. So like I've thought about going back. Like if I were to play 40K again, because I do really like some of the look of the new like Primaris Space Marines. I would love to do a Death Watch army, like a Death Watch kill team, just because of how much you can like convert and individualize every single Marine in the unit to make them all like different chapters and give them their own character, and you can paint each one of them a little different. Like make a Space Wolf and give them a pelt and do all the have a dark angel with his robes, and that sounds way more fun to me than sorry Dave, like painting a whole bunch of Iron
these guys,
Mans.
production line.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool. Different strokes for different folks. It's all good. No, that's cool. That's good. But so what are your 3 minis that you haven't painted that you would love to paint?
so I have one behind me. I have it's a release from Chimera. It was, if you remember Crystal Brush in 2019,
Yep.
It was the best of show winner from Francesco. It's the Belafonte on the Pegasus with the Chimera.
Right. Yep.
I really want to tackle that figure at some point. It's just like finding the time when to do it. It's 3 pretty large figures, and I stay pretty busy. So
Sure. Yeah.
I love painting all my Kingdom Death figures. I'd still like to get. I have a huge, like a massive moving box full of them because I buy them every single time they come out on the website. I'm like, yep, I need one of each. Thank you. I'll never paint them. They're just going to get stashed away in my closet. But I buy all of them. That's probably the only figures I actually buy for myself. So one day I'll get around. I have a goal of at least like getting all the bosses painted before the next like wave of the Kickstarter comes out. So
Cool. When's that due? The next week?
this is a good question.
Okay.
All the backers have that question also. Nice. I think it's supposed to be late this year, but
Okay.
you never know with them.
That guy creates so many of his own problems. Like I talked to him at Gen Con. I want to say it was pre-COVID.
Yep.
So I think it was like,
then.
I think it was 2019. It might have been 2018, but I think it was 2019. And I went up and I talked to him, and I own a store, so I was like, hey, listen, like I've had a lot of people who've brought in the base game, and like I'd love to stock it. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, so how do I get that? And he was like, well, you can just pick it up. And I was like, no, I want to get it for my store. I'm not picking it up for me. Like I want to stock it. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, are you in distribution? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, is your game in distribution? Like, do distributors carry it so that stores can buy it? And he was like, oh, no, we don't usually do that. And I was like, can I buy a bunch of the starter sets, like, off your website? And, like, do you guys do wholesale? And he was like, we've never done that, but, like, we could figure it out. So it wasn't the artist who created it. It was, like, his business manager. Yep. So I was like, I'm asking him all these basic questions, and I was like, this guy doesn't know anything. I was like, I don't know what you are managing, but, like, these are pretty straightforward questions. And then it was like, can I buy stuff for you? He's like, well, you could buy stuff today. And I was like, cool. Can I buy like, I don't know how many starter sets come in a case? And he goes, 1. And I went, could I buy like 6 starter sets? And he's like, oh, I only have like 1 or 2 in stock here at the show. And I was like, okay. I was like, that's fine. Like, can I buy it when you guys get back? And he's like, well, we're waiting on another production run. And I was like, so you don't really have any copies. You don't know how I can get the copies. You don't know when you'll have the copies that I may or may not be able to get. I was just like, I think I understand why everybody at my store is asking me how to get this game, because it seems like nobody really knows how to get
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
As Ben would say, his stuff looks great. This is what happens when you have an artistic creative making this stuff, but then also running a business. And I was like, yeah, he's like, he should hire somebody who's doing all the nuts and bolts gear stuff while he's just like making more stuff.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I was like, I can't believe that I can't, like, help me help you. How do I get your game to sell it to the people? And he was like, yeah, gee, I don't really know. And I was like, okay, well, enjoy the rest of the show. Like, I was like, I didn't have any answers. I was like,
Fantastic.
crazy.
Cool. Okie dokie. So just quickly, Dave Hummel says, cough, cough, painting 100 Marines. Just so you know, Eric, Dave has many hundreds of Marines. Yeah.
Dude, more power to you, man. I don't.
Dave has hundreds.
I couldn't do it.
Dave has hundreds of squads.
Yeah.
I've talked about this before with people, but like, how do you get an army done? Like, how did I approach getting an army done?
Yep.
And it was always like, paint like 5. So let's use Warhammer. Warhammer for an example. It's like paint 5 tactical Marines because it's going to be boring, and then treat yourself with painting like an HQ or like a dreadnought or something cool, and then paint 5 Space Marines, and then treat yourself with something cool.
That's exactly how I have to paint, because I never want to paint my troops. Like, I want to spend all my time painting like detail marks and like now that there's, like you were saying, the Primaris guys. Like, I just got a squad of the Primaris Blade Guard, and I have the 3 command dudes from the Indominus box, which look like Blade Guard. Like, they're all, dudes with robes and crazy shields and giant swords. So I have 6 guys, and I'm like, oh, I really want to get to them, but I have to paint like 30 tactical Marines. So I'm like, okay. So I painted a squad of them, a squad of 10, and I'm like, I'm going to do the 3 Blade Guard, just the unit of 3, and then I'm going to paint my next squad, and I'm going to do like the lieutenant and the banner bearer, and then I'll paint the last squad, and then I'll do the captain. Because I'm like, if I don't like treat myself, they'll never get done. Because I don't want, like, I just don't. My favorite squad I ever painted was a charity thing, and I did a squad of scratch built Space Wolves, and it's before they had any of the chapter specific Primaris Marines. So it was a squad of Primaris Marines, and I got a bunch of fur pelts from the old Chaos Warriors from Fantasy, and I like filed them all down and put like cloaks on them and like bits of like Space Wolfy stuff, and I did like face paint and like symbols all over their armor and like tribal markings, and I had such a fun time doing it because I painted them as 7 characters,
right?
Not a unit of 7 Marines, and it was super fun. I really, really enjoyed it. But like, that was the last time I was like, man, sure, really enjoyed that. Had a good time painting.
Yep.
And that's the most important thing to me, is like painting should be enjoyable, right? It should be fun.
Yep. Just quickly, Dave Hummel says that his approach is paint 10 guys, collect 20 more, paint a random tank, buy another tank, get distracted, buy a single Marine. Ooh, shiny terrain set. Crap, out of paint. That's a great cycle to be in.
It's a problem. That's a problem. That is definitely a problem.
That's one of those, like, it's like at work, like your inbox is just stacking up, and you're like, oh, took a sheet out of my outbox.
Yep. For sure. That's the best way to do it. Anyway, now I'm going to slide us on over to some of the photos. I was hoping that once we get into the photo chat, no doubt Scott's going to have some comments to chime in on.
Sure.
But I want to talk quite a bit about light and the use of light, or the way that you create the impression of light, I guess, on the minis. So the first one I am sliding on over to is the small Orb Bust, top knot. In the basically has like the orange skin.
Yeah, with the big blue, big blue rim light.
Yep.
So this was an experiment first, because you're definitely showing like what's going to probably be the worst looking paint job of all of them first. But the whole goal with this was painted in like 40 minutes or something.
Okay.
And the whole goal was to paint a figure in as few brushstrokes as possible.
Right.
So this whole figure was painted. Originally, the plan was to paint it in 100.
Yep.
Just gave myself like an arbitrary number. Then I went to like move on to the face and paint like all the teeth and around the eye, and 100 wasn't enough. So it ended up being 200 brushstrokes.
Right.
And it was an exercise in training myself to like think more about like the placement of the brush, like be intentional with how I place every brushstroke to create the impression of like a finished model. So if you look at it in hand, it's pretty tiny. It's like this big or something.
Right.
It's like the size of a Space Marine for the whole figure. And it was very like trying to be impressionistic, right?
Sure.
To create the look of a finished figure in as little effort, but being as intentional as possible.
It's really cool. Like, it looks like when we first brought it up, it looks like one of those like a light test for like a digital model, because of the way you have like the blocks on his pecs where it's like the bright orange, then the light orange, the dark orange. So it looks like a It looks like a digital image that you like tweaked,
like a render, like a digital
yeah,
render.
like a render that you use like lighting contrast to like fill it in. So it's really neat. I like the way that you did it. You can definitely tell like as you move up the model, you're like, oh yeah, there was like a ton of effort, like work on the face. You can see all the extra strokes and stuff.
Yeah,
but it's
yeah. So I think like the chest and like the neck, it's like 3 brush strokes, right? It's like base coat orange, then like a mid-tone, and then a light of orange, and that's it.
Yep. Because obviously, as we've determined, my approach to painting is quite mechanical, which is what allows me to comfortably go through 20 Space Marines at a time.
Yeah, Dave brings up my average.
What's that?
Dave brings up my average. Like if we figure out the average that we painted, like we're all pretty good.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we both paint a lot for sure.
Yeah, our average.
But I guess my question there is, at which point does that blue rim light come back in? Does that go in at the end of the process once you're comfortable with where the primary light is, or does it go back and forth? I guess
it was because I was so limited. I knew at the beginning what kind of effect I wanted to do right from the beginning. So it's very simple from like a color theory standpoint. It's an orange blue color complementary contrast, and the blue is, if you look at it from the side, like if you turned it around, it would be an absolute mess. Like if you look at it from the blue side, but from that angle for photo, right, it creates that rim light effect, and it was purely to like just silhouette the side of the face. And yeah, I mean, it was planned from the beginning,
right,
to do that sort of effect.
When you did you do him warm to cold, or cold to warm, or did you start with your mid-tone and then build out and then build out?
I probably started with it. The figure started as like this dark brown, right? I didn't include base. Yeah. So, I always build up the light kind of at one, like the whole figure gets kind of built at once. So I'm constantly working on everything. Like I put the blue in on the face and then realized that I need some more light on the other side that needs to be stronger than the blue light. And I add that. So it's a very fluid process of painting, as opposed to like base coat, layer, wash, highlight, right? It's more interested in like the volumes of all the shapes and everything than I am of like a mechanical process to painting.
Yeah. Cool. The next mini that I've got here is it's one of the Kingdom Death models. We talked about it's got the girl with the blue hair and the flaming fist. So I think
this was. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say I think when a lot of us are interested in looking at beautiful minis, when we talk about lighting or light or understanding light, rather than thinking about it like in that Orb Bust, we think about it like this, with an object source lighting really is what we're thinking of. So
yeah, so this figure was painted for in a demo at ReaperCon. In an OSO class. So this is what the whole point was just to show off like how I approach painting OSL and like in what order. Because the question I often get is like, do you paint the whole figure first and then do the OSL, or do you treat the OSL like all while you're painting the rest of the figure? And I would say most of the time, it's an interesting question of like, it really depends on the figure. If it's something very small, like a plasma gun, for example, that's not going to be like a major part of the entirety of the scene, then I can paint it at the end. But if it's a figure like this, where the flames is a huge part of the figure, you kind of have to start thinking about it immediately. And I make sure to start getting all that light in there right away.
Yeah,
like the big one that I noticed from this one is in particular, like you were saying, is it's in multiple spots, right? It's like behind her, kind of like flaring up, and then it's on her glove. So like this one in particular to me is probably the craziest because you have the light on her robes showing the yellow from the flame, but then also the one that blew me away with this is her left shoulder is noticeably darker than her right shoulder because it's in the shadow of her arm because the flames were over here. Like, that's crazy. Like, I'd be pulling my hair out being like, okay, I have to get her skin at just a different tone than like the rest of her skin, but it has to look like it's highlighted the same way. Like, oh my god, it's phenomenal.
So a lot,
really good.
So a lot of what I could say about like when you start trying to really paint with light, a lot of it becomes less about like when we talk about tone is like you're always thinking about color. A lot of it becomes like thinking about value, and like value is the amount of white or black a specific tone is. Like value is often way more important to achieve an effect than the exact color that you paint something. So like just knowing to put a little less light, so maybe I stop one layer from on the one shoulder than the other, but using value is so much more important when trying to achieve effects like this, right? It's like knowing that her robe is white and the flame is going to create this orange yellow glow. Well, I can't create a value that's brighter than white with yellow, so the yellow can only appear in the shadows of her robe, right? Because I can't make the white any brighter.
Right. Yeah. It's super cool. It's awesome work. This is one of those minis that's like sneaky good too. Because you're like, oh, it's a monk girl with a flaming hand and blue hair. That's really cool. And then you're like, well, yeah, but there's like 3 sources of light, and then like you did like light effects on her hair because there's no light here, so it's like her hair is getting pulled to light, which is really neat. Like it's really really cool. And like I said, it's a great mini just to show off the layers of subtlety to the different techniques that you use on this mini. It's really really well done.
Cool. The next one I have is I think it's one of Alfonso Herrera's busts, one of Banshee's busts, and I think when you were talking in the last piece about value being more important than the actual color being used, this is a great example of that.
Yeah, this was another one of those kind of experiments. These academic busts, what they're called, where it's just like a very simple kind of face or character. It's not like a specific character or anything. I love doing these sort of experiments on. This is where like I have my box artwork, right, where it's like I have this character I need to paint a specific way or whatever for the box art. Yep. These I get to just do whatever the heck I want on. So here was literally like, can I paint a figure without using any of the what you would consider skin tones and still create a kind of can I make him look human?
Yep.
And this was kind of based on the French like Fauvism painters like Henri Matisse isn't well known.
Sticks kind of the Fauves.
If I didn't see the stick for the bust, I'd be like, this is a painting. Like you painted this. You know what I mean? Like it's depth of color that it looks 2-dimensional because of the way you did OSL. Like OSL stuff to me is always crazy because like Dave and I remember going going down to HQ and seeing like stuff on John Schaefer's desk and seeing Dirty Steve like photograph stuff, and it's people who had sent in non-metallic metallics or like stuff that had OSL, and you'd be like, oh man, it looks crazy in person. You're like you said, you turn it around and it looks bananas. You're like, why is this blue? Like they didn't paint this. And then when you see it in the photo, because it's designed to be seen from one direction, it looks amazing. Yeah. But it always drives me nuts when you see that stuff because you're like, right, but it's a 3-dimensional model. So like as soon as you turn it, you screw up the image. It's just weird. Like this is fantastic. He looks awesome. Again, if that stick wasn't there, I'd be like, he painted this. Erik painted this. This is a 2-dimensional image. Like
right.
that's a comment I tend to get a lot with just my painting style is like often, like even my most recent one for the Golden Demon was like, if I didn't know that this was a figure, like I could have swore it was just like a illustration, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes from my background in illustration. I wanted to be a comic book artist when I was younger, and came up a lot grew up a lot like just doodling and drawing and colored pencils and everything. So
yeah, there you go, Scott. Scott had asked. I find most painters who have a strong understanding of light have a traditional art background or training. Did you come up to?
Yeah, I went to art school. I went to art school for a few years, and
there we go.
So I do have some traditional, some classical training.
Yep. Excellent.
He's great though. He looks angry. I mean, he looks pissed, this guy, but I like him.
Yeah. So the next piece that we have here is the I guess it's a big troll. It has those sort of the pale skin with the blue nose, and the club. So just
he's a yep. Mm-hmm.
So this one, there's a couple of things to that I'm sort of, I don't know if point out is the right word, but to ask about. Obviously, the previous two busts that we saw, the first orc and the Alfonso piece just then, very painterly strokes, putting painterly in.
Yeah, I would call
quotes.
them expressionistic, impressionistic. Yeah. Where this is definitely a bit more like realism.
Yeah,
I guess.
So, I guess, but at the same time, you've got that same treatment of light and shadow, and I think even on this one you've painted in some of the cast shadows approach.
Yeah, the one that's like might not be obvious to people is the like large shadow on his chest, and on the club that's casting from his head is all painted on.
Right.
This is when I was kind of like starting to really experiment with this technique of light and shadow on figures, is like forcing the hard shadows that you would get, because it's not particularly common to see in figure painting. Normally we see like very soft, like overcast lighting is what I would call it. It's like a guy standing in a field on a cloudy day is how most people paint their figures, right?
Right.
So starting to really play with like directional lighting and trying to create those shadows. And one of the funny things about it is like the more successful you are at it, the less people notice it, because they kind of just accept that they're, there.
Yep.
There's like, they just assume that it's, made from the light of the photography or whatever, and not like part of the actual figure. It's much more noticeable when you can actually turn it around in hand.
Right. Actually, just quickly, Matt Morris says magnificent work. Dave Hummel says, "Oh my," and Josh says, "That's not painting; it's wizardry." So,
he's phenomenal. Like, again, I understand what you're saying, because I was going to ask the same question that Dave did. Like the shadows that are like under the rocks and like along his like the edge of his shoulder, stuff like that. Like underneath the club, like you can see that you definitely toned it out, so you have like the play of light. But yeah, the one that's like over his shoulder on the club and then down across his chest, you're absolutely right. It is done so well that I'm like, oh yeah, that's from the that's the cast of the light that the photographer used or whatever. So I can I can definitely see that. You'd be like, oh man, nobody noticed the shadows I painted. I did such a good job on those. You're like oh, it's almost like though, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like, did people like, are my shadows so realistic people thought it was real? Or are you like, oh damn it, I just shouldn't have done that? Like nobody even noticed.
I mean, that's always kind of my goal, is like, right, is we paint illusions essentially. Like that's the whole idea of what non-metallic metal is like to create the illusion of metallics, right? And if someone asks me, like, the biggest compliment I can get on my non-metallics is like, is that non-metallic or true metallic?
Yeah.
It's like, well, then I've nailed it, right? Because you can't tell the difference.
Yep. That's definitely great. Yeah, Scott said the shadow is so convincing it looks like the photographer took a bad miniature photo.
And Eric's like, nailed it.
Awesome. The next mini that I am bringing up now is one of your orcs. It's the guy with the.
Let's find it. Wait, when you say one of my orcs, that could be literally so many.
Literally
okay, I'm like scrolling. I'm scrolling along with the live stream so I can see which one exactly. Yeah, so this was the box art for hair models. Another one with cast shadows.
Yep,
nice.
So, so when we do talk about orcs, there, what is it about orcs, or what is it about this particular approach to green, I guess, that you're?
He's very hulky. He's very Incredible Hulk.
So I have, Matt nailed it on this one. Definitely a Warcraft orc vibe. Yeah, you got it, dude. One of my big inspirations is Wei Wang, who's the illustrator for Blizzard Entertainment for years. Like, I love his work. I love all the artwork from that kind of era of like Warcraft 3, World of Warcraft. It's that like really vibrant, saturated. Like, you've got two different kinds of fantasy painters, right? You've got Brahm, who like paints in all these like dark, desaturated kind of, dark fantasy, and then you've got like the vibrant, more whimsical fantasy, I guess. But you could still have these like angry, violent characters in that whimsical feel. And I definitely lean towards the like more cartoony, side of fantasy.
Right.
So I love using punchy colors, but honestly, really the only like, if you were to say like, people often mention like, oh, you use really saturated colors. It's like, not really. Like, if you look at this figure, really the only saturated color on him is the green.
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of washed out. But the reason the green looks so saturated is because it's surrounded by all of this kind of desaturated colors. It's something Frank Frazetta was really known for. He's another huge influence, is like creating these paintings, and then he popped like this gigantic red moon in the background, and it's like this splash of color.
He's one of my favorites. Like, there's an awesome one. It's like I think it's from John Carter. Like, there's like a guy on it's John Carter on horseback, and then there's like a woman, and then like off to the right hand side, like there's like a city in the distance, and like you said, there's a moon in the sky, and then there's like this bright red lizard that's like on the right side, like just by himself, and you're like, what the hell? Like,
I guess that's working on balance there, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, spectacular.
Yeah, so
the
it's become a popular subject matter for me, and not necessarily by choice. I love like orcs and goblins and dwarves and all those things, but it's become a like, I think people want me to paint orcs for them more than I want to paint orcs, right?
Sure. but if somebody's paying for it, right? It's part of the job.
It's not that I don't enjoy it. I enjoy painting an orc. I just don't, I don't want every single model I paint to be an orc. I can paint pretty ladies also.
Erik Swinson, the orc guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the next one, so the next two that I've got are your most recent two entries in the open category for Golden Demon. So first up I have the Mephiston. So transitioning across to that.
Let me find out. I gotta look up the name.
Keith just jumped on. Dan just jumped on. Yeah, this is awesome. This was like, I loved this mini when we saw it at Adepticon.
Yep.
His sword was so bright that I was debating with somebody whether or not it was done using LED. I thought it was LED, and that was a translucent sword that someone had painted effects on to make it look like it was smoky. Like they had painted reds and blacks over yellow, and it was just an LED in the hilt.
Yep. No.
No, it's all painted.
So this was your entry last year, so 2022, Golden Demon in the US. For the open category, you got 1 gold with this.
Correct.
But who did you work with to sculpt this?
So Joaquin sculpted this. Joaquin Palacios, who I work with quite a bit. He did a pretty fantastic job. It's based on the cover of one of the novels called Mephiston Revenant Crusade, and it's the illustrator. I had to look up his name. It's Lai Setiawan, who's really good. He does a lot of art for Warhammer, like Black Library and Magic the Gathering. So it's painted to look like the cover of the novel. So speaking of like painting in an illustrative style, right? I'm literally trying to mimic the cover of the book in 3 dimensions.
Yep. No, it looks it is absolutely amazing, and I think you're right, Jake. It did feel like seeing it up close. Even seeing it up close, not against the black backdrop, it still felt like there was light emanating from that sword.
In person, I was like, I don't want to touch that sword. I'll get burned. It is done so well that literally, like, I have a friend who does a lot of like, he's an electrician, so he does all kinds of like crazy LED work on his stuff, and it looks fantastic when he does it, and it's always a really cool look when someone's like, oh, let me set up my knights, and then they're like, click, and all the lights come on, and you're like, whoa, like. That's another whole, like, that's modeling, which is another whole thing. But yeah, I was like, oh yeah, obviously this was done with the same thing. It's an LED and all that. And he was like, no, it's all made. But again, even the 2 of us in person in front of the case, it looks like you did such a fantastic job on the source lighting on it that it looks like it's done with electronics rather than paint.
Yeah.
So you know what the number 1 trick I can give everyone is stop painting black on their flames.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Yeah. But look at pictures of flames. You never see black in flames. It's always like a deep orange as like the darkest color on flames. So if you want convincing looking flames, more bright yellows, and your darkest color should be like a deep orange.
Yep.
Then it's also important to have everything around the flames be darker than the flames themselves.
Right. So with this, obviously, because this is such a huge, the flaming sword is such a huge central piece to it. You worked through, you included the OSL feel, the lighting from the start with the.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like there's kind of like 3 lights going on this figure. Based on the illustration, there's like this light coming from behind him. You can see like the sort of bright rim light that goes around his shoulder.
Yep.
Then there's the like light that's kind of on his face, this kind of cold neutral light lighting up his face, and then there's just the sword is lighting up like the entire of his left side.
Right.
So like getting those warm reds versus the cool reds on the other side, and all these dark tones on the one side. You can also see the rim light on his glove, like creating that kind of silhouette on his glove.
Yeah, that's great. What was the question, Jake?
He's pretty big too, right? Isn't he like?
He is a 75 millimeter scale, so he's really like a 90 millimeter figure.
Okay.
Right.
He's 75 millimeter scale Space Marine, which means that he's like 7 feet tall or something. So he's a bit bigger than 75.
Cool.
That model was great. I myself am a huge Blood Angel I have my Darkness in the Blood over there, and a bunch of the Mephiston books, and
I love the face on this model. Like the illustration of this face was so good, and like, yeah, it's like his face is full of so much character. Even for like a 75 millimeter face is still like relatively small, right? Like pretty tiny. So trying to fit all of that light and everything onto his face was a challenge, but I think worth it
for sure. So I guess with this one, you said you worked with Joaquin Palacios on this. How does that sort of collaborative process work? Is that a matter of you calling Joaquin and saying, "Hey, I've got this idea. Here's what I would like."
So this one was actually, both of these from Golden Demon were both from a collectors who had approached Joaquin to sculpt a figure off of this piece of art, and then Joaquin or the collector, approached me. Like Joaquin will sometimes make like a suggestion to say like, I think Erik would do a really good job on this figure or whatever. So it really depends. So this one, in this case, it was a figure he had already sculpted, and then they picked me to be the painter for it.
Okay.
And then sometimes we'll do one where it's like we'll talk. So like the one I did for Monte I was the collector in that case, where I approached Joaquin and was like, I want to do this project, and I art directed it.
Right.
And obviously he had all his input on sculpting it, and he did the work, but I got to like direct him on a few things to be like, okay, I don't want the feathers to be textured because I want to paint all the texture on it, and different things like that. So we work back and forth. Like, so we're working on one for next year already. We're in like the planning stages of it. And this one, so the collector who bought the Sigismund.
Okay,
I don't know if you have the picture of him.
Yep, I got him queued up. It's coming through now.
So does the collector own this guy?
So these are for two different collectors, but the collector who owns the Sigismund, we're already working on a figure for him for next year.
Okay.
And this time it was, instead of being based on pre-existing artwork, it's like my concept, and I'm now like talking more directly, collaboratively with Joaquin to be like, okay, here's what I want, here's the kind of pose I want, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it really just depends, right?
Okay, cool. That's good. The so we've got Sigismund on the screen now. This is obviously him in the Horus Heresy days.
Very, very early in the Horus Heresy days, because he's wearing yellow.
Yep, with his chunky.
Yeah, that was a conversation of should he be in yellow or gold, because depending on which artwork you see of him, he's either in yellow armor or he's in gold armor. And then I guess afterwards he founds the Black Templars, so he wears black armor. I don't know all the story with him. I looked up a little bit to like try and make sure I got like markings right and stuff.
He's awesome. It's such a great model. And yeah, you're right. Like that's always the issue, right? Whenever you paint a character that is a historical character from a fictional game, it's like, okay, so like, I painted Horus, and you're like, when is this Horus from? Is this from like early on when he's a Luna Wolf? Is this once he's the son of Horus? Is this once he's fallen? Like, does he have the chaos powers yet? Like, I mean, it's the same thing with all of these characters. There's very few of them that are constant. He always looks like this. So, but yeah, that's a fantastic paint scheme. Like, he's dope. There's so many great Heresy characters right now. Like some of the new plastics that I really like. This makes me think of him is was it Fafnir Ran? Fafnir Ran is a gorgeous mini. Like, it's so much going on him, almost too much. Such a great looking model. And then they put out Zephan, the Blood Angel character. Like, he's another one. He has like, his cybernetic arms and legs. Like, they're really, really neat. Even that Space Wolf guy with like the crazy hair,
right?
Like that. Like, they're all super fun models. And like, I'm assuming this guy's oversized.
He's 75.
Yeah, he's in
But like,
he's another 75 millimeter, 90 millimeter, which was hilarious seeing all the comments online of people trying to speculate where this figure is from because they had no idea it was like completely custom sculpted and 3D printed. Of like, I think he took this figure and did a bunch of conversion on it. It's like, no, dude, this thing is huge. It's way bigger than a normal Space Marine. It's like it's 10 Space Marines in a trench coat.
Any regular Space Marine size, he'd be perfect. You could literally put him on the battlefield. He would look, he would fit in perfect with the whole aesthetic and the whole style. Like it's awesome. It's really impressive.
He's bigger than a like
Primarch.
much model. Bigger than a Primarch model. Yeah. Like he's twice the size of Gilliman.
Yeah. So is he like? He must be like Mortarion size? Or no, Mortarion's only. Yeah, Mortarion's pretty big.
He's probably pretty close to the size of the Mortarion figure. Yeah.
Yep. Matt Morris says, "My God," and also the little shadow from the spike on the backpack, the shadow on the dome. So many details.
All of the shadows, all of the shadows are that you're seeing. There's like the little shadow of the chain and everything is painted on.
Yep, all cast shadows. It's amazing stuff.
So question about the shadows then. When you do shadows, when you are painting, to make sure that all of the shadows are consistent, do you use a specific light and like mark where you're like, okay, so the base has to be like this. Okay, this is where all the shadows are coming from this angle.
So if they're really complex, if there's something simple, I can often just like paint them in. Like if it's like, oh, I want to paint the cast shadows of a spike or something, right? Yep. Then I can just paint it on. If it's something much more complex, like on this figure, I take a reference photo using a flashlight. So I'll shine a flashlight find the specific direction I like, and I take a picture of it, and then I can paint everything based off of that reference photo.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Because I was like, there's so many shadows I'm like, oh my God, how do you like? I'm like, you'd have to, because otherwise you're like, oh shit, like I did this one. This is a 1230 highlight. This is more like a 145 highlight. Everything, it's close, but it's just off. Like I was like, that would drive me crazy.
Yep.
And there's I teach a whole class on this, but there are certain ones like I ignore because they're just like confusing or something. Like I'll just choose to not paint them because I don't think it's like aesthetic. So that's a whole nother side of like doing this kind of painting with light, right?
Yeah. Excellent. So just before we go into the final slide I've got queued up for you is your piece from Monty last year. But we'll come to that in a sec. Josh Potter says, question for Eric. Are there any other figure painters that you find that you draw inspiration from or want to learn from, or things that you'd like to do better? So I guess who do you look to learn?
I take most of my inspiration from 2D, like from illustrators. There are some figure painters that I really enjoy their work. I would say I draw more motivation from them than I do inspiration sometimes. Yep. Guys like Mark or Kirill, I'll see a piece of their work and it gets me fired up because I'm like, oh, it's so good. I need to paint better. Right. Yep. So it's like those other guys that are, pushing me to be a better painter because they're always improving also. But yeah, if you don't know who Kirill Kanaev or Mark Vaskins are, like look them up. They're incredible. So like every time I see a piece from Kirill where he's painted in crazy non-metallic metal, I'm like, I need to get better at non-metallic metal.
Yep. Yeah, his non-metallic metals are perhaps the best in the world.
I would say they're definitely the most realistic.
Yeah.
Right. They definitely convincing wise, stylistically, like you could argue like maybe Lan, someone like Pisarsky is better at like his style of non-metallics, but
sure.
Yeah, but at that level, it's all preference anyways. But those are like the guys that, push me to want to be a better painter.
Right.
But most of the inspiration I take in painting is from illustration.
Right. Cool. And
Like Magic the Gathering is a wellspring of inspiration for painting. Like,
there's so many. In fact, well, it's a different piece of art for every card, right?
Yeah, and the cool thing about Magic too is like you just get exposed to so many different artists. Like there's so many different and different styles. Like, oh, this is a land. And you're like, it's basically a landscape, but it's it's somebody's specific style. And you're like, oh, this is like a spell effect, or this is a character, and so you're just getting deluged with new styles, new artists, like people I've never heard of from time to time.
Oh, if you want to paint like a background. If you want to paint a background for your figure, Magic the Gathering lands are like the perfect inspiration for painting fantasy landscapes for backgrounds.
Yep. Excellent. Scott wants to know, Eric, are you teaching at LVO next year?
I will not be at LVO next year. I will be back at Adepticon. I'll be at Nova this year. I'll be a few places.
Yep.
But
so just
work. I have to do workshops.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you've got some workshops in between conventions. Yep. Speaking of Nova this year, Eric will be joining us again in the as the head judge for the Masters category at the Capital Palette, which I am super psyched about. Who do we have joining you on that team? Krzysztof
Kowalczyk from Poland.
So Krzysztof is the guy who organizes it's the contrast painting competition, isn't it?
Yep.
In Poland, which is the big painting competition there. So definitely super cool stuff. Now I will slide over to the final slide that we've got of your artwork. It's the piece from Monte San Savino last year. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about this one?
So this one was this is Bane Bloodhoof from World of War. Like I said, I enjoy the Warcraft characters and world. I haven't played in 10 years, but I used to be really into it, but I still love like the characters and the artwork. And so this is Bane Bloodhoof. He's the leader of the Tauren, which are like the Minotaur, Native American like motif Minotaurs in the game. And Joaquin sculpted this. It's also 75 millimeter scale, but it's really like 120 millimeters tall or something like that. I think the whole from the bottom of the like rocks to the top of the totem is like 8 inches or something.
Right. Fantastic. Dan Wood said this Bane made me make a weird noise.
Awesome. So this is all hand sculpted. It's like it's the only copy of this figure. It's not cast in resin or anything. It's all polymer clay and milliput, and it's huge.
Excellent.
But the idea was like him blowing the horn at sunrise or standing on a cliff blowing the horn. It's another one based off illustration by Wei Wang. Anyone who played the game has probably seen this piece of art before because it was like on one of the loading screens.
It is awesome. It is breathtaking. Like the amount of color you have in this, and like knowing now like to look for all. I'm like, oh, those shadows aren't real. Those are all done. Those are all done with love. Those are not done with light. Like he is fantastic. There's so much going on in this mini. Oh, so is this what you were talking about when you asked them to sculpt the feathers so that they didn't have the details, so you could like paint on the detail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those feathers are like completely flat. Basically, there's no like like a lot of figures you get the little lines so you can use washes and stuff to get that feather texture. Now they're completely flat so that I can paint all the texture onto them.
For those who watching,
the fur.
Yeah, for those of you watching,
the fur is pretty flat.
Texture on this model anywhere, everything is done. It's all texture. Like everything is texture. The texture on the horn, all that stuff. He went all in. You were like, I don't want any detail on this model at all. That'd be insane. That'd be crazy. You're like, yeah, everything on there. His face, like, it's just a blank face. I painted all that. Like,
Yep.
oh, it's crazy. It's just nuts to me. It's truly a fantastic piece.
Yep.
And so he's yours. He's the only one that exists.
Yep.
Yep, he is mine. He's he's right there,
Awesome.
sitting in my case, and that's where he will stay.
How did it feel painting over model, knowing that it wasn't plastic or resin or metal or 3D printed or?
Yeah, I mean, you get over it kind of quick. It's like the first one, the first original I did, like I was a little nervous about, but yeah, I mean, you get kind of over it, and you just, once it's primed, it's the same as any other model, right?
Right. Yep. Fantastic. I know
also like,
sorry, go for it.
When Customs tore this model up, like all of the feathers on his headdress were like completely broken off. So I had to like go back in and like figure out where each feather went and re-glue them and like sand down and fix the transition point. So when things like that have happened, like you get kind of over the idea of like, oh, it's like it's precious and something broke on. It's like, you learn to fix it. We all know how to like repair a model.
Was this Customs broke it when it was coming to you, or once it was painted?
No. When in transit to me, it was broken. Yeah.
So from working to you before it was painted.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, that sucks. But if it was after it was painted, I would have lost my mind. Like, you would have read about
even then,
local man like jailed after assaulting 4 TSA officers. Like,
even then, like, I painted a figure for Privateer Press that's like, so they do all resin printing now, and the like the 3D printing and the ones we get for production, like the pre-production model to do the box art on, is printed in a different resin. It's like a more prototyping resin that they print, and it's pretty brittle, so like it'll shatter if you drop it. And I had like mostly finished painting a model, and I just slipped out of my hands and I dropped it, and like all the fingers broke off of it, and it shattered into like 20 pieces, and I just glued it back together and finished painting it. Like, yeah, it's plastic, right? It's all fixable.
No, that's awesome. And what? I know the answer to this question, of course, but how did this model do for you at Monte San Savino, one of the most prestigious painting competitions in the world?
This won Best of Show.
Yeah.
This is the Best of Show winner. I would like to say we won Best of Show because Joaquin is also a part of it. They have a category called the Open category, which is judged on both it is for custom pieces and heavily converted figures. It is judged on both the sculpting and the painting. So he was also, like, the sculpt was also judged. So we won Best of Show.
so who has the trophy though? He does, or you do, or do you share it? Like,
I do. I gave him my gold medal because it's an open judging, so you get bronze, silver, gold. I gave him my gold coin. I kept the Best in Show award.
Awesome.
He also got paid to sculpt this figure. Okay, right. So he got a money prize too.
Cash and prizes.
Yep. But absolutely fantastic. I'm so so excited for you about this.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well deserved to both of you.
Yep. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
So so I'm just quickly going to bring up all of us. So the next thing that you're going to be working on is you're going to be writing a book, I hear.
I am. I am, in fact, writing a book.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, Eric,
something about the art of
going back to that art question from Scott right at the start of the show. So yeah, the art of Volume 7, Erik Swinson, I'm super psyched to work on this with you. It's gonna be absolutely very cool. Kickstarter goes live on Friday, noon Eastern summertime, Eastern Daylight Time, or whatever it's called now. Yeah, so very excited about that. We've got 2 other awesome artists who are part of this this group of books, Yanni Dali and Katarzyna Gorska, also known as Kaha. Both very different takes on miniature painting to Erik. So again, a slew of great variety of the approach to miniatures art. So I'm very excited about that as well. How do you feel about writing a book?
I'm excited. I don't love writing. I anytime I write a tutorial, it's mostly like dictated to my phone, and I just let it do the like actual typing part.
Nice.
So, but
well, there you go.
Yeah, for some reason I've never been a like wordsmith. Like anytime in school we had to write essays, it was like my weakest thing. But there'll be a whole lot of cool pictures and hopefully some sensical words in there.
Fantastic. That's great. Don't worry, we've got some good editors that we can turn to. I think this is one that Jake would like to have a crack at as well. So
100%.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there.
We can even talk, and you can walk me through stuff, and I will ghostwrite. You can like explain what you want.
Absolutely fantastic.
And then when we win best book of the year, like you'll get the trophy.
Right. Okay. Is that how that's going to work? I'll just have the book. Right. That'll be my prize. Awesome. Yes, Scott. Thank you. Do you have a Kickstarter plan, perhaps? An impending launch date? Oh my God, does he really? Yes, I do. We all do. It's going to be great. So Friday, keep an eye out for it. In the meantime, there's a link in the notes below, surprise, surprise, to the pre-launch page, if you go and check that out. We've had a nice run of people clicking that button today, which is super cool. So quickly now we're going to run through some of the cool photos from the group.
What do we got?
We will do that. First up, we have, sliding across, we have an Assault Intercessor from Aaron Provost. The Raven Guard Assault Intercessor.
I like this guy.
Pardon?
I like this guy.
Like this guy? Yeah. Definitely cool. I think...
It's cool.
Oh, say again?
The beaky head works well with it. I was actually curious how the beak heads would work on the Primaris Marines, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, I think like especially considering how like that it's got that higher collar. But yeah, I think Aaron's done a great job in there. This is Grenadier, and
my favorite thing in this was I liked the stripes on the chainsword and then the wear he has on them. So it looks like it's been like this sword has not been repainted in some time.
Yeah, definitely not. Next up, sorry, just have a quick one from Chris Jones. This is more, it's a bit of a mix of shout outs here. He printed this 3D, or 3D printed this version of Brian the Sewer Vent, who is a piece of terrain that was given character by a fan. This piece of terrain exists in Warhammer World. But Brian the Sewer Vent appears in a number of different, sort of in the background of a lot of different photos from GW. But he's printed this in epic scale, and I think this is going to be given away as a prize. It's like an objective that's going to be used at the Tosia Cabers event in Vancouver, or Vancouver area, in June. I think I'll be sending some books there as prizes for the charity events. But yeah, definitely cool. Thanks for posting that, Chris. Next up, Chris Kemig continues to work on his Imperial Fist Praetor. So we've got some nice subtle weathering coming through there. And when we saw it last week, it was all glossy, waiting for the weathering.
Oh yeah, the washes to dry.
Yeah.
Does he have like a big shield or something that goes on him?
Yeah, I think Chris gives him a breacher shield, so at some point he'll put the shield on.
Yep. And I'm looking forward to seeing which head he's going with. We don't know yet.
Yeah, there's so many options.
Yeah. Next up is somebody Eric. This is Clay Williams. This is a mini that
I've heard of him.
You've heard of him? Yep.
Yeah, I may have heard of him.
Yep. So I think this is a mini that Clay has just recently finished for Privateer Press.
Yeah.
What faction's this?
I believe mini. It's Minnow, Protector to Minnow. That is one of the mini crate models.
Okay, cool.
That's like their monthly subscription where they send out like these alternate sculpts for figures.
Right.
I believe that's what this is. That's most of what Clay paints is those.
Other mini crates. Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Looking great. Oh, Chris has just said that he just finished the Praetor tonight. Excellent. So
we'll get a picture of it next week.
Yeah, we'll have a final shot for next week. Definitely put it in the group. Speaking of the group, there's also a link down below to the Facebook group. If anyone wants to jump in and join, click on that. Next up, we've got Jeff Smith's Spartan for his Horus Heresy Space Wolves.
This model looks great.
Yep. I took a closer look at the door here. I think this door must be like a 3D printed piece.
Yeah, he's got that, and then on the front, he's got like an.
Is that 3D printer or is that Forge World?
It feels to me like the scroll work or the swirls. I think it looks like they're sort of indented into the door, which I don't think Forge World have a door like that.
It also probably fits too well for a Forge World door.
Yeah, probably. Shots fired. You're not wrong though. It's cruel.
It's not warped and like bent out, not fitting right.
Yeah, it's cruel, but you're not wrong.
On the front, on the nose,
Yep.
on the nose of it, right above the drop ramp, he's got like the two. I don't know if it's the two wolf heads or it's the whole wolf.
It's
two
wolf heads. Yep.
Yeah, this is great. And then the axes and stuff and all the scroll work.
Oh, then yeah, the knot work's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. Jeff did a great job with this.
Yep. We'll do work for Jeff.
Jeff knows he's a solid painter.
Yep. Excellent. And next up, we've got a piece from Christian Simonson. Christian was sent this early by GW to paint it up. It's the lion. And he's in a beautiful grimdark look that we know and love from Christian. But
this figure is so cool.
Yep.
He's rad. I also like that there's so many different heads. Like he comes with 4 different heads.
Yeah. Oh, what's your favorite? Which one do you like? Charles Dance or the helmet, or which one?
So I think Charles Dance is the right choice just because it's Charles Dance and he's amazing. But like as a personal thing, I always paint helmets on I always put helmets on my Marines. It doesn't make any sense for you to be like the most advanced fighting specimen in the galaxy wearing the most top of the line armor to protect you, and you're like, so what I don't do is protect my brain. And I'm like, nope, that's dumb. Put a helmet on. Like, it's like why I have two
I
arms.
really like the I really like the face with the hood.
Yeah, the face of the hood's really cool. Even that makes more sense because then it's like he's harder to see. There's a guy who did a conversion of this. So he did this model as it is, but then he took the Watcher from the new Azrael. So he's holding the lion helm.
All right. Yep.
It's like oh cool. So he can grab his helmet once he goes in action. This is I'm gonna look menacing. Oh, it's time to get busy. Like, so he just added a third Watcher carrying his helmet, which is neat.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I think Kristen did a great job on this as well. There's so much detail on the model,
Yeah.
but those big armor plates, they're a different look to the standard.
I think it's a way better. I think it's a way better figure than the Gilliman figure.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. I think they've learned a lot in the last sort of 4 or 5 years on things that they can do with models of that size.
They put up the article about the guys who were working on this, and they talked about how they used the Gilliman model very closely as they were making this because they wanted them to feel like they go together, but also like be different from each other. And I was like, oh, I really appreciate that.
Yep.
But yeah, this model's dynamite. Yeah. And I'm not a Dark Angel fan at all, and this model is great.
Yeah. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah. I do love that they did make him Charles Dance. Like that is like somebody at the studio just needs to come out and say that because it is
no, they can't say that. No. They can't say that.
Not without paying him some money. So good. But and then another shot from Christian. He painted up his or finished off his Kratos for his Sons of Horus army.
Yeah.
And fantastic little vignette here.
I always enjoy this this like historical or like scale modeling techniques on like Warhammer figures and stuff. I think it always works, and I see it a lot more from the 30K community than I do from the 40K community. But I always think it looks really cool. The like mud and weathering and things that you would typically see on like historical scale model tanks done on miniatures. I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
they look fantastic. One of the things I love here as well, which it's a little detail that kind of gets lost with that big tank there, is the top. So the Praetor and the Terminator armor there, you got his back banner, and at the top of the back banner is the face from one of the Warcry models from the Unmade.
Yeah,
who are the ones who usually they remove their faces and use them as belt buckles. But so that wonderful sort of draped.
He converted it so it looks like it's part of the banner. So it's like there's a skeleton underneath the banner. Like he's Christian's pretty solid. Like this is some pretty nuts stuff.
Yep, beautiful work there. And finally, we're going to finish off with some stuff. Some lovely stuff from Bombshell Miniatures. Patrick Keith painted.
Eric, you should paint up a lion as Charles Dance and send it to Charles Dance.
Hey, that would be great. But yeah, so Patrick Keith is Sculpt Dude. He runs Bombshell Miniatures, and these are some super cool little tiny brain squids.
These are hilarious.
They are, aren't they?
I love the little tiny like old school 1960s like ray gun that looks like a bunch of donuts.
Yeah.
Yep. And also
very, very Art Deco.
Oh, so good.
It looks some great stuff. And I think next week we'll show a picture of Patrick's painting area that he is now recently tidied up. Or you can check it out in the Facebook group. But yep. Scott says, I wasn't sure Erik was a real hobbyist until he took a shot at Forge World casting. He is one of us. Awesome. So, there we go. Switching back to us. So, there we go. It is 8:44. We've been on almost 2 hours again. We always end up running a little bit late.
It's Dave's fault. Dave's always like taking his extra time and, you know.
Yep. Telling those old-timey stories.
Ridiculous.
It's fine. It's fine. It's all okay. But yeah, I just want to say thank you to Erik for joining us this evening and chatting about the painting, answering Scott's questions, all that kind of stuff. I think it definitely means that Scott has to come out to Adepticon next year.
Oh yeah.
So make sure you start planning that, Scott. But absolutely awesome stuff to see it all there. Once again, Oh, I always forget to do it at the beginning of the show. When's the perfect time to remind people to subscribe to your YouTube channel, Eric?
Right now.
Right now?
I don't know. I'm terrible at.
There's a button down below.
I'm terrible at YouTube. Yeah, I'm not good at that. I never remind anyone to subscribe or like or ring the bell or do any of that stuff. So
fantastic. So you've just heard all the things you need to do for our channel right now. Do all those wonderful things. And then again, one of the other links, I don't think I mentioned it before, maybe I did. So Eric's Instagram is down below. Eric's YouTube channel is down below. Usually, so Eric streams Wednesday nights. Yep. So what time does that usually kick off?
Sometime between 6 and 6:30.
Right. So
EST.
Eastern. So and usually runs all evening. So
stream for about 4 hours. I work on I'm gonna be working on this Dwarf tomorrow night, trying to finish him up, but I try and do like a full figure on stream. So however many weeks it takes is how long it takes, so you can see the whole process. And then if you want to catch up on the earlier part of that, it's all uploaded to YouTube. And not tomorrow, but next week we'll start a new figure and go from there. So I try and stream every week unless it's like, Adepticon or something, right?
Yep.
The next figure is gonna be on OnlyFans behind a paywall, right? Like that's the plan.
No. There's I don't know. I don't want to get into the whole idea of like Patreons and stuff and everything. So
all good. But no, once again, thank you very much for joining us, Eric. Absolutely super cool. One final thing, I almost forgot it. Jake mentioned to me right before the show, talking about our friend Cathy Wappel. We got some news from Cathy over the weekend. I'll put up a post in the Facebook group tomorrow with a link to. Oh, actually, we'll Jake and I will talk after the show. We'll work out how we do it, but we'd like to do something super special for her. So check out the Build Paint Play Facebook group tomorrow, and we will get that underway.
Yeah, basically, the quick example is things aren't going so great. We're hoping things are going to turn around, but she got some bad news, or I guess unfortunate news. So she has a list of stuff because she's not able to work right now. So we were going to try to, rather than have a couple people kind of like onesie twosie trying to get everything, I would love to have our community and anybody who is interested chip in $5, $10, $20, whatever they can, and then we as a group will just buy everything and just send it to her.
Yep.
I just think that'd be awesome. I think it's something that we could absolutely do. I'll make sure that once we figure out how we're going to approach it, we'll make sure that like Hank puts it up, and we'll put it up in as many places as we can. I would love to be like, hey Cathy, we ordered 10 of everything you asked for, even though you didn't ask for that.
You
like,
didn't ask for 10 of everything.
You do go grocery shopping for like the next 6 months.
Yep.
But,
that'd be great. We'll get that sorted. We'll post that up tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. And that's about it, I think. We never know how to finish these things.
Sure we do. Eric, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Just hit the button and just hit the
button. Awesome.
Hey, it was my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
And don't forget.
And I'll see anybody in MFCA. That's the next show, right? Anybody going? You going, Dave?
MFCA. I will not be at MFCA. MFCA is the miniatures and figure collectors of America
in Philadelphia. Yeah.
So, yep, in Philly. That'd be cool. I'm very keen to see what you present there and how it does. But no, unfortunately, I won't be there.
Okay.
It'll be good.
Dave, you ready to punch out?
I am ready to press the button that sends us to our outro.
Here we go. Thanks for joining us again, folks. And as always, don't forget to build paint, play.
Man,
we're good at this.
Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.